Hello everyone, Miss Lockhart here. I am so excited to turn our thumbnail sketches from last week into a 3D drawing that comes out of your paper. So let's get our materials together. We need a piece of white paper, preferably thicker mixed media paper so I can hold the heavy paper of the cactus, construction paper, the color of your vase, and green for your cactus, scissors to cut it out, and some glue. I'm using glue stick, but you can use liquid school glue as well. All right, you'll also need a pencil and anything you want to color with. You can even use paint if you have it at home for the background, because our background is also going to match the thumbnail sketch we drew before and colored in from last week. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, because each of you may choose different thumbnail sketches to recreate, each of these steps might differ depending on what drawing you've chosen. So do reference your thumbnail sketch. That is actually the reason we have it, is to use it as a reference to start drawing on your large piece of paper, the same drawing on your thumbnail sketch. So here I'm doing that with my horizon line, vertical paper, and two curved lines to create the pot the cacti lives in. So two curved lines connected with these diagonal lines that are kind of vertical. Okay, you can see it's becoming to look like a vase. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the back line of that vase to help remind me where I need to put the items inside of it. So do a curve behind it, and then you're ready to fill in your vase with your cacti shapes. So these are very tall, curved lines. Now your cacti might look different depending on your thumbnail sketch, so keep in mind which drawing you're recreating. So my cacti has a little one coming off the top of the big one, and then this medium-sized guy right there. Now remember, I'm sketching, so I'm drawing lightly at first, well, sort of lightly. And then I'm gonna go over it with a darker line when I'm happy with my final line that I've chosen. And then let's erase the things we don't want once we've finished our basic outline of the cactus. So I'm erasing all the extra little sketch lines that aren't working for my drawing, and I'll erase the horizon line as well. Okay, I need to go back over some of it though. I'm gonna make the dark lines now that I'm pretty sure this is the sketch that I want to use. In my thumbnail sketch, I've chosen a mountain background, so I'm gonna make those mountains with zigzags. I'm gonna try to just go over the cactus there so I don't have to erase another line. So I'm moving around it, making sure that my cactus is in front or overlapping the background. And I'm gonna add my sun from my thumbnail sketch. And then another ring around it to represent the sunlight. It's a very hot day today in this drawing, not in real life. It's snowing outside right now. Okay, I'm gonna put my little flowers up here. Just as a reminder, I'm gonna actually make those flowers with tissue paper with you later. Okay, what else do I need to add? My cacti pot has two curved lines. I'm gonna do some fun texture here inside where the cacti is growing from. My vertical line from the middle of the cactus, and then you need a curved line on the left and a curved line on the right. This will represent the paper sculpture aspect that we're gonna be adding. And it really makes the cacti drawing look 3D, doesn't it? It helps give it form. Now for the shadow. Now the shadow can be really fun. It really doesn't have to match at all. It can be ambiguous, or in other words, it can just be a blob or a random shape. It's totally fine. Okay, so now if you finish your sketch, you're gonna need your scissors, a pencil, your paper, and some glue. Okay, and if you're not finished with your sketch, you can always pause the video. Now, I'm going to use this dark green. I think I'll have a lighter kind of Kelly green. It'll be really pretty. I'm going to match these corners and fold my paper in half. Now I'm doing that so that when I trace and cut out my shape, I'll have 2 pieces of that shape instead of just one. Okay. So the goal is to try to draw the exact, not the exact, that's impossible, but a similar shape to the drawing of the cactus. So I'm gonna do my best to just sort of, I put it over it to kind of give myself a sense of the size of it, because I know it was about the same size as the paper, and then that's pretty close. It does not have to be absolutely perfect, but as long as it's similar, because you can always erase the drawing if your paper shape ends up being too different. Okay, so when you're happy with your shape that you've created from your cactus, cut it out. Now, I talked about this a little bit before in our thumbnail sketch drawing last week, but your cactus shapes need to be symmetrical, or at least almost symmetrical. That's part of the reason why I've chosen cactus as our subject, because our subject does need to be symmetrical for this 3D sculpture to work. Now, this is not perfectly symmetrical, but it'll be fine. You won't notice that it's not perfect, as long as it's not like a super lopsided cacti, right? So, you know, symmetrical, like a butterfly. Same on both sides. So when you fold it in half, both sides are about the same. I'm going to go ahead and do this again for my next cacti. So same steps. Fold one piece of paper in half by meeting the corners and then folding down the crease. Okay. I'm going to go for that medium-sized cacti right now. So I want to try, instead of putting it on top, I'm going to try this method where I just put the paper next to it and kind of just guess. Just sort of look at the cacti and then look at my paper and go back and forth and see, yeah, that looks pretty similar. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be exact, but you want it pretty similar. And then now that we've folded our paper, we're going to have 2 of this fun shape, which will be super helpful, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Okay, so make sure, cut it out, and then make sure you cut the bottom where it needs to be too, because I had some extra paper. There we go. All right, looks good. It matches up pretty closely. I'm happy. I'm going to put that other one to the side. Don't lose the extra cutouts that you're putting to the side. Keep a hold of those. Now for the tiny cacti, this is going to be so fun to make this small one pop off the paper as well. So I'm going to fold my paper in half. Same steps as before. So I'm going to try to guess the shape and size of that one there. Yeah, that looks about right. That was my dog Candace saying hello. Okay, so I'm going to cut off the extra paper because it'll just get in my way. That's how I like to cut out small things, cut off the extra. And now I'm going to go ahead and go for the shape, cutting a little slower to get that cut out nicely. Okay, so let's see here. That looks pretty good, pretty close. I'm happy. Okay, I'm going to put my third piece aside. Now these pieces I'm putting aside, the second ones that part of our cactus shape that we got from folding our paper, we need to keep them. Okay, so I'm going to write my name on them, and you should too. I'm just going to write name, N-A-M-E, but you need to write your name on these little pieces, whether you're home or at school, because otherwise it might be easy to lose them in the paper scraps that you've created. So just keep them away from the paper scraps and put your name on them. Set them aside. You could even paper clip them together, put them in an envelope. Just set them aside somewhere nice and safe from the trash. All right, time to glue. So I'm using a glue stick. Make sure you take off the lid, put it aside somewhere you'll find it in a minute, because we'll want to make sure to put the lid back on in just a sec. So the goal here is to glue the back of these cutouts and place them right where you want them to be on the paper, where you had them lined up just a moment ago. So I like to glue off of my nice paper that I'm going to draw on, either onto a scrap paper or if I have a big piece on my table to protect it. So there we go. Make sure you flatten it nicely and make sure all the edges are glued down well. If you're using liquid school glue, washable glue, make sure you glue just a little bit of glue. Don't use a lot. Go ahead and do the dot dot, not a lot method. You may be familiar with that if you've had me before. Essentially, you just use small dots of glue about 1 inch apart. So that way you don't use too much and it sort of billows out of the underneath of your paper. So just don't use too much liquid glue, please. And anywho, so I'm going to go ahead and glue down my large cacti here. Oops, it's got a wrinkle, so I'm going to lift it, press it down slowly. Okay, that seems to be glued well. Now for my small piece. All right, covering it all the way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this where I'd like it. All right, great. So now would be a good time to do any erasing if you need to. If your cacti shapes are different and the drawing different than the drawing, you can erase some of the drawing since you use a pencil. I'm going to put these 3 pieces aside. They are our template that we're going to trace to create more of that same shape. So we need to save them because they're exactly the right size and shape that we're going to need for the other steps to complete the 3D cactus. So keep those nice and safe. Now I'm going to finish my background drawing and add some details before I color it, which is what you should do. So erase anything you don't want, add any details that you might have left out, and then you can color your background with whatever materials you have. You will be coloring a little bit slower than I am here. I've sped up the video just to show you. You want to cover all of the white paper unless the white is left intentionally. Like, for example, the tops of my mountains have snow on them, so I left the white of the paper. But otherwise, you do want to fill up the space with color. Once you have finished coloring your background and gluing down your cactus pieces, save this and your 3 extra cutouts for next week when we transform our 2-dimensional cactus into a 3-dimensional one. Stay tuned. Can't wait to see what you've made.